But let's get into our first topic. We are talking baseball because I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, I believe, when the official new MLB rule changes came in, banning the shift essentially. There's going to be a new pitch clock to hopefully speed up the game. All attempts to try to keep the MLB alive, I would say, because I definitely think the MLB has been struggling, at least in the new viewership department, because I think still people who like baseball have always liked baseball, and basically the MLB is trying to, get new viewers to at least jump onto baseball. So they added a pitch clock to hopefully speed things up, and that's been successful in spring training. The pitch clock has been very, very successful. The average MLB game last year was about 3 hours and 17 minutes, I believe. Every single spring training game has been 3 hours and 60 minutes or below. There was even one game that was like 2.5 hours. So speeding up the game has been, a question mark for several years now. But on Saturday, in the Atlanta Braves-Boston Red Sox game, it ended in a 6-6 tie because the Atlanta Braves infielder Cal Connolly got called for a batter's box violation, which is essentially you're not set in the batter's box with 8 seconds remaining on the pitch clock. It was a full count, and I believe we have at least the reaction. Connolly didn't know what to do. There was some sort of motion, the umpire motioned to go to first, but then called him out. No one knew what the hell was going on. Bottom of the ninth, full count, 2 outs. Ended the game on a tie. And then the question mark after this was, I think people understood why there would be a pitch clock, but you know what? Then there were question marks after this game saying, well, when should the pitch clock be instituted? Should it be even in the 9th inning? That's the big question here. So I'm going to ask myself, do I like this pitch clock? And is it a good or a bad change for baseball? So the first one I will do is I actually like the pitch clock. Because there was someone on Twitter here, Barstool Baseball, posted about 22 hours ago. They took a little clip from, I believe this is I don't have it for the show, but they basically compared an inside the park home run by Jose Altuve and how much time passed between how many inside the park home runs and a pitch being thrown. It turns out there were about, I believe, 7 inside the park home runs before one singular pitch was on. So it was about 2.5 minutes before a pitch was thrown. Like that's ridiculous. That is the portion that, would make people sit there like, let's go, let's speed up the game here. I think he threw it over to like second base twice maybe or 3 times. That's going to be removed apparently. You can only throw over, I believe, twice. So they're getting rid of that. I watched several baseball games throughout the year. Every time a pitcher would throw it over, the home crowd would always start to boo. And I can understand that. I can fully understand that. Now, you're waiting for 2 minutes for a singular pitch. That's a little bit ridiculous here. So I can understand why. So I like the pitch clock. Speeds up the game. And I do think this would be a positive change for baseball. But of course, I'm sure if my dad was here, he would actually probably disagree with this because I think it's sort of like the anticipation of when a pitch is coming in. Now it's speeding up a little bit. It kind of maybe feels rushed. And some pitchers have a very, very long release time. And that every time I see a pitcher with an extremely long release time, I just find it absolutely hilarious because they take so long to throw a singular pitch. And the MLB is like, yo, we got to stop this. And the MLB, what? The truth of the matter is, MLB is a dying sport. It's barely above hockey in viewership. And hockey is one of the lowest viewed sports in America right now. It's football, and then a decent gap, basketball, and I believe even a bigger gap is baseball and hockey. So baseball is technically a dying sport. I'm probably one of the minorities of people my age that actually enjoy watching baseball. I believe I only have like 4 friends that like watching baseball. So, we're trying, I guess that's what the MLB is trying to change. Add a younger viewership to hopefully keep the sport alive after the people who have watched it for 40, 50 years, they move on. It's kind of, that attempt to bring it in, speed up the game, which I don't mind. I think it's going to be a good change. It seems like the internet actually enjoys the pitch clock, and I can understand why. I remember you're sitting there for 18 innings in the 2018, was it Game 4 of the World Series, Dodgers Red Sox, 18 innings. You're sitting there for what? I think it was like 5-6 hours, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. You're sitting there all the time. You speed up a pitch clock, you'll probably take off about 20%, maybe 15% of that game just strictly on waiting for pitches alone, because some people have extremely long pitch times. I believe there's a reliever or a closer on the Astros. He has one of the weirdest windups I've ever seen. I wonder how I haven't seen many Astro games or really any Astro spring training games. So I'm very curious to see how his motion is sped up, because now it's sort of like, I believe 2 minutes and 15 seconds I saw on the clock in the little footage there. 2 minutes and 15 seconds to throw one pitch. Like, that's a little bit ridiculous. Just a little bit. And I believe you can only have a certain amount of mound visits. I think they implemented that last year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's all attempts to speed up the game, which I think is very, very smart for baseball. Because, like I said, you're trying to get more people to get into baseball, and you're trying to have the people who are on the fence be like, okay. And the people who don't like to wait, 3 hours for a baseball game, you're trying to say, hey, we're speeding up the game. But you could also say that the people who go watch the game, there's some of them spend pretty good money to get, a nice 3-hour game. And if it's over in 2 hours, it may feel a little bit rushed. So maybe, but I do think this change is good. And the way I'm seeing it on the internet, I think that the majority of people would also agree with the change. So we'll see. Will they change it for the 9th inning where they can't have that violation? Maybe. I think that's actually a really good conversation to have. Where do you actually want to take it maybe out of the game in crucial situations like this? Like where it's a 6-6 tie, full count, 2 outs, bases loaded, and you don't get set in the batter's box with 8 seconds remaining in the pitch clock, and you get called for a strike 3. I couldn't pronounce the pitcher for the Red Sox's name, but he threw 2 strikes and was able to get a strikeout. Like, that's crazy. And so I think maybe you want to try to, maybe create some little exceptions to the rule. But I'm sure, this is all about a process. The MLB's trying something new. I respect that immensely. Trying to, figure things out to speed up the game, make it more entertaining for people. So maybe make an exception going into the 9th inning. You can't have something like that. Maybe turn the pitch clock off. Because I think actually, you have a sped up game for 8 innings. Then you go into the 9th inning, you maybe have a little bit of a more anticipation, more anxiety when that pitch comes in. That could be an option here. I don't think that would slow down the game so much in the 9th inning. Keep the shift ban and keep the mound visits to, one number or something like that. But entering the 9th inning, we may see chances where there will be another batter's box violation in a key moment of a game. That very well could happen because some people take a long time to get set in the batter's box. So I like the change, but I do think there could be a little bit of an exception when it comes to the 9th inning. But we'll see what MLB does. Like I said, I respect the decision. I respect the push to try to change how the MLB works because, you're sitting there for 3.5, 4 hours. It gets a little bit tedious there, and especially if your team's getting crushed. I went through a couple baseball games last year. I went to a couple Red Sox games, Red Sox Yankees, and I think Red Sox Blue Jays. They got smoked. It was in like that stretch where they lost like by 12, 11 runs per game. I was at the Chris Sale injury game where he broke his finger off a comebacker, and I'm sitting there. The Red Sox are getting smoked in both those games. I'm like, yo, please let this game end. And it would sort of be that thing where it's like, oh, if the game's over in 2 hours, it's not as crushing. But like I said, respect the MLB for trying to make a change to improve the game. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.